Welcome in, sports fans, to the Prep Sports Report Pigskin preview for this Friday night. It's rivalry night weekend here in Savannah, Georgia. High school football teams, big rivalries going at it, and there's no better way than to get the man himself who just wrote a great article about the three games that are going to be previewed this weekend, rivalry games: Calvary at Savannah Christian, Effingham at South Effingham, St. Andrews at Memorial Day. And joining me now on the hot seat, the man himself from Savannah Morning News. I call him Dennis Night Shift Night, but he doesn't work at night anymore, so I don't know what to tell you, but it's always fun talking to Dennis. Been here a while doing this. He's been covering high school sports for over 30 years. Just exciting, and he does a great job with it. What's up, buddy?
What's going on, Coach?
Hey, I'm excited for this weekend, and Friday night is rivalry weekend. Like I said, we got Calvary Day at Savannah Christian. You got Effingham at South Effingham, and St. Andrews at Memorial Day, and both teams are off to a good start, but there's a couple little catches to that game, which I know you know already about. Well, and why not? Let's kick it off with a Georgia Independent Schools Association game, which is now called the Georgia Independent Athletic Association, a game that really is going to mean something. Both teams have had a couple of tough years. St. Andrews was on the upswing. Memorial Day School with a new coach, second year in there. The kids love it. So let's start off, Dennis, with Memorial Day School hosting. Yes, the Memorial Day School Matadors are playing home the St. Andrews Lions. So what's your take on this one?
Yeah, this is going to be a really nice atmosphere for this game, playing at Memorial Stadium. St. Andrews is 3-1. They're both teams are under second-year coaches. So St. Andrews is 3-1 under second-year coach Kevin Prezant, who had a long stint there as an assistant at Benedictine for some of those state title runs. They're looking pretty good. Everybody knows about their quarterback, junior Zayden Edwards. His brother Zaire is moved on now, playing basketball at Augusta State. But Zayden's a great basketball player too, on the past two GIAA state title teams for the Lions. He's a good dual threat at quarterback. He's rushed for 263, thrown for 352 yards. He has 8 combined touchdowns. Their sophomore running back, Amari Cook, has emerged as a big-time playmaker. For a team that averages 265 yards rushing per game, he has 395 yards and 5 touchdowns on the year, and he's also a standout on defense. Most of these teams, both of these teams have players that'll be going both ways, with limited men on the roster. Rashard Williams is another two-way standout for the Lions. He has 5 rushing touchdowns, 238 yards rushing, 18 tackles, 2 picks, and 2 sacks. So they'll be matching up against this Memorial Day team. Last year, they only won 1 game in Jaha Taylor's first year as coach. They've tripled that this year, and they're 3-1. Now, senior quarterback Tyler Kindle, he's been leading the way. The kid's got a strong arm. He's kind of a drop back, pro style quarterback, and he's thrown for 867 yards and 7 touchdowns on the year. But he's not going to be playing in this game. He suffered a concussion in a 3-0 loss to Colleton Prep last week. So one of his favorite receivers, Charles Chappelle, who has 16 catches for 244 yards and 2 scores, he'll be making the move behind center. Coach Taylor said that Chappelle's a good athlete, and he could make an impact on the field in a variety of positions. So if he has to replace Kindle with someone, he says Chappelle is a guy he can trust. And then we got Julian Zamora. He's a great two-way player for Memorial Day. As a cornerback, defensive back, he has 4 interceptions on the year to go along with 12 catches for 253 yards and 3 scores. And Asir Best is a standout running back for the Matadors. He's rushed for 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. So St. Andrews has won the last 2 meetings and 3 of the last 4 in this rivalry. But the Matadors lead the overall series 12-6. It'll be really interesting to see how Memorial Day responds, wanting to win one for their guy Kindle, and see how Charles Chappelle, who's a real good athlete, see how he can play behind center.
I mean, it's definitely going to be interesting, and this game or whenever St. Andrews now plays Memorial Day School, it's a big rivalry game, whatever sport they're playing. So I think we're gonna see more people at Memorial Day at Memorial Stadium supporting Memorial Day because John Taylor, I mean, the kids are buying into this. I mean, last year 1-9, but he's changed it. He's got, I guess you would say, a fast break offense on the football field. What he's doing this year, and it's a shame that Tyler got knocked out in the game against Carleton Prep. So it's going to be pretty interesting. So overall, I'm going to ask you this. I think about every team. What do you think the impact is this game for the St. Andrews Memorial Days community, the fans, the players? What's the impact of this game so far this year for both teams coming in 3-1?
Well, I think both coaches have done such a good job, kind of putting their own stamp on the program and kind of helping turn it around. Jaha, like they got a pretty good social media presence at Memorial Day now. Before I would look up Memorial Day on Twitter and it would be about Memorial Day, not the team. Now they got all kinds of highlights each week, highlighting their kids, and Coach Prasant, he does such a good job. He knows what he's doing from all those years of experience at BC, and he's doing it at a smaller scale with like 25 to 30 kids on the roster instead of 125. But he grew up playing for a GIAA school, I believe, and he has coaching experience at those, and he really loves the atmosphere at the small school like this. So I think it's big. These are the two best GIAA teams in town. So if one team comes out on top, I guess maybe an 8th or 7th grader wanting to go to one of those schools, it might affect where they end up.
Yeah, it's definitely going to have an impact, and it's going to be definitely a lot of fun. And you know what? Whether they play in GIAA or they play in Skeezer like Bethesda, or they play in the GHSA, it's a rivalry game, and that's what it's all about. So next up, we're going to take a little ride up 21, make a left on 30. We're going to wind up at South Effingham High School, the Corral, because that's no other bigger game as far as Rivalry Friday night goes. As Effingham travels down to the Corral, South Effingham, it's going to be a great game. So we're going to break that down right now. Throw the Ricketts out when you have this meeting, right, Dennis?
Yeah, this is always, the highly anticipated game for both squads. I've been out to it before. They'll have crowds of 8,000 to 10,000 at this one. The whole county's out there for this one. But yeah, Lauren Purvis, he's in his first year at South Effingham. They're 3-0. They got this ground game going. I think he's kind of a triple option type guy, as I recall, and they ran for 430 yards in a win over 52-36 win over Bradwell in their last game. Both teams are off last week, so their ground game is pretty strong. They have 5 players who have rushed for at least 100 yards in the season. With Gannon White, their leading rusher with 254 yards, and Jakeem Leaks, he has 190. Jeremiah Washington leads that defense. He has like 25 tackles. Effingham County lost that opener to Richmond Hill 34-7. Then their other losses have been pretty close. One of their losses was to Burke County. That was a 10-6 loss where they were right at the goal line at the end, trying to push it ahead. And then they beat Statesboro, and they lost by a touchdown to Southeast Bullock. So Jaden Evans and A.J. Butts. Butts is a good two-way player. He's their leading rusher right now and also their leading tackler. He came over from Calvary Day, a senior. Jaden Evans was a first-team Savannah Morning News pick at running back last year. He had over 1,000 yards rushing. They've combined for like 315 and 4 touchdowns. And they got a really talented quarterback in Nate Hayes. He recently picked up an offer from Coastal Carolina. So it should be a good game. Effingham leads the series 17-12, and they've won last 3 matchups and 6 out of the last 7. So South Effingham, this is Purvis's first appearance in this game as a head coach, so it should be interesting.
Yeah, and it's not like he's not new to this rivalry. And I'm telling you, I worked up there for 5 years. There's nothing like an Effingham South Effingham football game, and to see what Southern Georgia's football games are all about. I mean, it's crazy. It's a packed house. You don't get there early enough. You're not going to, you're not going to get out there for a while. And I mean, Dennis, I mean, as for me, football in the South is what happens here at whether it's at Effingham High School or at South Effingham High School. There's nothing like it. I mean, yeah, we have big games here in Chatham County at Memorial Stadium, wherever, but there's nothing like the atmosphere when you go to that game when people are standing at the fence because they can't get seats. It's just something special.
Yeah, it's packed. Trying to get out of there or in there is really tough too. You better show up early and be ready to leave late if you stay to the end.
And many a nights you have written your story from your car because you couldn't get out, right?
Oh yeah, that's my office after these games nowadays.
So, all right, the big one at, of course, in Pooler Stadium, where it's always cooler and Pooler, where the home field of the Savannah Christian Preparatory School Raiders. They come in at 3-1. They're taking on Calvary Day School, comes in at 4-0. Calvary Day School ranked number 2, Savannah Christian ranked number 5. So let's hear the breakdown of this big one, because that was the major part of your story on the internet and on the Savannah Morning News website.
Yeah, so we got Calvary, like you said, they're at number 2 in 3A by the AJC at 4-0, and Savannah Christians at 3-1. Number 5, their only loss is to Marist, which is ranked in Class 6A, I believe.
Yes.
So last year it was Calvary edging Savannah Christian 34-28 on their home field. Christian had won the previous 4 matchups before that. And that was second consecutive win for Calvary in the series, and Savannah Christian won the last 4 before that and leads the series 26-18. Both these teams are just stacked with Power 5 Division I talent. We got Elijah Griffin, defensive lineman for Savannah Christian. I think he's the number 2 or 1 ranked recruit in the country on all positions for the junior class. Savannah Christian also has David Busey, the senior who's committed to South Carolina. Logan Brooking, the son of Falcons legend Keith Brooking. He's a junior playing tight end and linebacker. He's taking a trip to Clemson on Saturday. Last week he went to Stanford for a recruiting visit, and he saw Stanford lose to Sacramento State, which was a pretty big upset back there in California.
Yeah, I would say so.
But and then Savannah Christian, they have a great running back in Zoe Smalls. Smalls has rushed for over 400 yards. I think he had 1,400 yards rushing last year, and he just does a great job running the ball. He's got 424 yards rushing this year and 8 touchdowns already. Kenry Wall, he had a big game against Savannah Country Day last week with a couple touchdowns. He's like a do-it-all type guy, slot receiver, running back, defensive back. He has 522 all-purpose yards and 4 touchdowns on the year. The interesting thing this year is Savannah Christian has a new quarterback in sophomore Blaze Thomas. So he's done pretty well so far. Thrown for 606 yards with 4 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. So he can get the ball out there. So it'll be interesting to see how this defense for Savannah Christian can contain Jake Merklinger and company. Everybody knows about Jake, the senior quarterback from Calvary Day, headed to Tennessee. He's thrown for 858 yards with 12 touchdowns without an interception on the year. And those numbers could be much higher. He's playing like a half in most of these games because they're just blowouts,
So,
Go ahead. Go ahead, Coach.
So, with both teams entering this game with impressive records, so much talent on both sides of the ball, you just mentioned one storyline, they're going to have to, Savannah Christian's defense is going to have to stop Calvary offense. But, it's not a gimme in this game because Calvary went up, 34-21 last year, and they had to hang on, and they won 34-28. So what other storylines are you looking at this game while you're roaming the sidelines and making sure you don't get hit by a football player?
Well, like I was saying, this Calvary receiving crew is one of the top in the nation. We got Michael Smith, 4-star tight end, headed to South Carolina. Dupa Coleman, he's got offers from a bunch of Power 5 schools, SEC and ACC schools, including Ohio State. He was injured in the first game of the year against Islands and came back last week, scored 2 rushing touchdowns. We got Thomas Blackshear. He just announced his final 6, which I think included Alabama and Georgia yesterday. I might be mistaken on the Alabama. I think he has an Alabama offer. He does. He transferred over from Benedictine. He's just a junior. So talented. And then Caden Arnold, the underrated guy in that group, sure-handed receiver. He's got an offer to Wayne State, I believe, up there, where a certain coach that we know runs the show now. Your son.
Yep.
But so yeah, with those guys, and I asked Coach Stroud, what was going to be the biggest challenge for them, and he said blocking their defensive front to give Merklinger time to throw. He said that will be a point of emphasis, and then they need to win the one-on-one matchups with their defensive backs. I think he said Calvary's defensive backfield is a little young this year, and they got some playmakers on Savannah Christian, guys like Boosie. Sorry about that. Guys like Boosie and Paul that they'll try to slow down. And then I asked Coach Baker Woodward what his biggest challenge was, and he laughed when he called back. He said, "Biggest challenge, singular." He said, "These are challenges with all their guys, And he said one is going to be blocking Buddy Mathis, who he's a defensive lineman from Calvary Day who has offers from Georgia, Auburn, Clemson, I believe. He said Mathis is one of the best defensive backs or defensive linemen in the area, in addition to his own guys. And he said his defense is going to need to tackle well in space with Blackshear, Coleman, Arnold, and Smith making plays out there, and just trying to contain Merklinger. He said whoever takes care of the ball with that, turnovers, he think will be a factor in the winner. If you stay away from the turnovers, that's going to give you a chance to win this one.
I mean, and you mentioned that Savannah Christian defense. I mean, just off the chain, and those 2 defensive linemen, of course, Elijah Griffin, like you said, is the #1 recruit in that class. And then you got this freshman phenom, Damian Guyton, coming in. So, I mean, how do you see Calvary's offensive line handling this? Because it's a whole new line. I mean, they only had 1 guy coming back. How do you see the Cavaliers, stopping that front 7?
Yeah, that's going to be tough. So, like you said, Damian Guyton, like Griffin, this kid got an offer from UGA as an 8th grader. I think he's picked up a South Carolina offer too. He leads a team with 5.5 sacks right now. He did not play against Country Day, but Coach said he expects him to be back for this one. And he's real quick around that corner. And with Griffin coming from the inside or outside too, it's going to really test that Calvary offensive line. So it's going to be a challenge for them. And, I know Merklinger can get rid of that ball quick. He might be having to with these guys coming after him.
Yeah. And just the last question, I know we were a little longer than normal, but what do you think the expectations are from the fans and the local community for this matchup? And how significant is this game in context of the season for both these teams? What's the impact of this game for everybody?
Well, I think both fan bases feel like they can win this game, but they might not like the other side, but they got to respect the talent level and the coaching talent on both sides of the ball. The game is super important because it's going to pretty much decide the Region 3-3A championship, and that will lead to different matchups coming into the playoffs, and that home field advantage. Hopefully, if you get the coin flip right through the quarterfinals, right? So
Yep.
yeah, this is a really big one, and I'm really looking forward to it. It's going to be a packed house out there in Poole.
Well, it's 2 years in a row this has been hyped, and it's out there. Wait for the bell to ring. And, of course, it's another big matchup here in Savannah 2 weeks ago. Benedictine and Ware County going at it. 34-21 Benedictine win. They got a bye this week. They'll start region play next week. But I appreciate it. Watch yourself on the sidelines over there. But you got a little more room than NC Anderson Field at 63rd and Paulson. So I think you'll be okay.
Yeah, it'll be a good one. I'm looking forward to it, Coach.
I appreciate it, Dennis, and look forward to your recap. Appreciate it.
Take it easy, man. Talk to you.
Talk to you later. I mean, the man's been roaming the sidelines for years and years. He's been doing a great job here in Savannah, Georgia. Dennis Knight. He doesn't want to go up in the booth. He wants to be on the sidelines. He wants to get the feel for the game, and that's why I figured let's talk to the man himself, Dennis, the night shift night from Savannah Morning News, about what the games are going to be like this Friday night with the 3 rivalry games. St. Andrews traveling to Memorial Day School. Like I told you, quarterback could be out. And then, of course, Effingham and South Effingham. The corral's going to be packed house. They're already talking about pre-game parties out there on a practice field. So if you want to experience football here in the South, you got to go to the Effingham, South Effingham game. I mean, there's 10,000 people every year. It's unbelievable, okay? And you don't get that down here in the Savannah area. I mean, we'll get 4,000, we'll get 5,000, especially when BC goes into the playoffs. They pack the house. Calvary packs the house. Savannah Christian packs the house. But it's nothing like Effingham, South Effingham. And, of course, the big game, Calvary Day School at Savannah Christian. I've been living this rivalry since 2005. My oldest son went to Savannah Christian. My youngest son went to Calvary. And, every year it's exciting to watch these games. Once again, thank you, Dennis Knight, for coming on. You've been listening to the Prep Sports Report Pigskin Preview for Rivalry Friday night under the lights, September 22nd, 2023. Don't forget tomorrow morning, or don't forget on Saturday morning, you also can see our recap from the other guy that's been a big part of all these rivalries. He's now a sports reporter for the Prep Sports Report, Nathan Dominance. Will have the recap of how he saw the game alongside his good buddy who worked besides each other for a long time, Dennis Knight. Once again, it's time for some football. Are you ready for some?